everyone. Welcome back and welcome back, Jennifer Luzzatto. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me back.
Yes, it's good to have guests like you back. And I actually, you're the second person that I've ever had back for a second appearance. So congratulations on a
Wow.
very limited club. So it's good. No, but no, I mean you're a great guest, and definitely wanted to chat with you today about COVID-19 and
hmm
some financial challenges. And we know that there's no shortage of people that are struggling financially right now because so many people have been unemployed by this situation and they're waiting for stimulus money. Grocery lines are long. There's things that aren't available that used to be. Toilet paper, we know, has been covered, and dairy products and meat, and some of the strangest things that you wouldn't think would be, hard to find now are, and it's just
Yes.
a strange world for us. But want to dive in specifically on some financial choices that people can make if they do have some resources right now. So let's dive into that, and let's
Mhm.
talk about for people that, and I know unfortunately a lot of the population doesn't have this situation, but many do, where they had some cash in reserves. So,
Mhm.
what are some things that people should be doing right now in the midst of this COVID-19 situation with their cash situation?
Well, definitely be careful with it because we don't know how long this is going to last and how long, even once the economy is open back up in the various regions, um, how fast reemployment will take place. So I think to be very careful and keep an eye on your spending. It's really hard to do in the grocery store. I was blown away the last time I went to the grocery store how much money it cost to just buy normal groceries. It was at least a third higher, I think, than what I usually pay. So yes, just be careful and really try to still, if you've got an emergency fund, still really try to view that as an emergency fund and don't use it for anything unnecessary.
Yeah, there's always that temptation, especially with many of us that are home right now,
hmm
and we don't have the opportunity necessarily to go to the mall or the movie theater or out to restaurants, that we may have some income sitting around, and online shopping can be a very slippery slope because you'll see things like, oh, you know what, I need this, or I
hmm
want to buy this new this or that, and maybe the prices are decent, and you're like, well, I'll just do that. Okay, it's only $50 here, only $50 there. Well, you do that, 10, 20, 30 times of those $50 items. Next thing you know, you've gone through several hundreds of dollars, and you
Yes.
can't eat a ukulele. Okay, it's just not easily anyway. I mean, I guess if you put some sriracha sauce or something on it, then you might be able to digest it a little bit. But I say that, tongue in cheek, but I
Mhm.
think it's a situation where
Mhm.
you have to kind of go into the basics and just being as protective as you can with your income, because like you said, we don't know how long this is going to be. We hear things and we are hoping that maybe by mid-May we'll start seeing some things, but a lot of it will depend on where things trend. If we start seeing a spike in cases again or deaths, because
Right.
no government official wants to open things up too soon and have it create additional chaos to the world or to our neighbors or anything else.
Right. Yeah, it can be really tempting. I think some people are very bored at home, so to be kind of entertaining yourself through online shopping and even I, who am not a shopper, I get tired of being restricted after a while. And so I can see some of us, are really busy because we're still working, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Except when your kids are home.
Yes.
But yes, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the last thing they want is to start to open up the economy too soon and then have to contract it again by closing things down. Excuse me. I actually had coronavirus. I'm recovering. Do you believe that?
Well, you're the first person that I've interviewed that came down with it. So, what kind of symptoms? What kind of symptoms did you have?
So I took off based on that interview, didn't I? I just sort of had the flu. Really, it felt like the flu for 2 days, and
Okay.
then just really bad fatigue for about a month. So, but it still catches my throat every once in a while. So I apologize for my
No,
fogginess.
that's quite all right. We try to keep things real on this show, so that's good. So we'll segue over to for people, as we know, in the situation, the stock market has been an interesting ride for people, and
Mhm,
a lot of people are obviously concerned about where stocks are. And
mhm.
for those of us that have been around enough, we know the stock markets go way up and sometimes they crash pretty hard and they rebound and break records again. So, what's some advice you can give some people on the people that have investments right now? What should they
Yeah,
be looking at? What should they be doing right now to um, kind of come out of this as best they can in this
right.
situation?
Yeah, these situations are really hard because people make decisions as much as we don't like to admit it with our emotions. And when we hit a scary time like this, people want to do something. They want to run, sell, whatever it takes to get away from the pain. And it's really the worst thing they can do. If you put together a purposeful portfolio, which I guess in a basic sense would be a certain percentage of stock and a certain percentage of bonds, you should rebalance. You should sell some of those bonds and buy some stocks while the market is down. So when it does rebound, you'll have more shares of whatever stocks you own or equity funds that you own to catch that wave going forward. What's so hard for people to see during a crisis like this is the recovery is not nearly as long as we think it's going to be from a stock market perspective. The stock market does not always directly, it never directly reflects what's happening economically at the moment because it's forward looking. Market participants are trying to look forward. And I had a client say to me that the other day, she goes, "What did it take us 12 years to recover from the financial crisis of '08?" And it actually took about a year. It doesn't take as long, but the fear is deeply ingrained. So I would say don't sell at the bottom. Maybe buy some more stock if you are able to. Don't do that with your emergency savings funds, though, because what you don't want is to risk a prolonged recovery. You always keep emergency funds and savings or money market funds or liquid accounts. But um, it is an opportunity if people will embrace that and are have the ability to embrace it, to buy some more stock, whether with just some savings you had on the sideline or within your investment portfolio. So I've been doing that. About 2 weeks ago, went in and rebalanced everybody's portfolio, bought a bunch more stock. And I think it scared some of my clients, but it's already proven to be a good thing for them. So it's sort of, people can just put their emotions aside a little bit and go, it'll be okay, because it will, and act accordingly. But I know it's really hard for people. It is so hard to watch their balances on their accounts go down dramatically, because this has been very dramatic, as you well know.
Yeah, people will look at their stock portfolio and see, the value of it dropped
Mm-hmm.
significantly. And I know for people that are close to retirement or on the cusp of retirement that was going to cash in some of those things, they're looking at it going, ooh. And my
Yes.
advice to them, I'm sure it was the same as yours, is okay, if you can extend it a little bit, we do know that markets go up and down ever since the history of the stock market. It does,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it will rebound. And depending on what they have in their portfolio, I would anticipate that most of the stocks that people know and love and trust will rebound and rebound then some.
Mm-hmm.
I want to clarify here, what we're about to say here is not stock tips. We're not giving advice. We're just basically having a conversation, because I don't want anybody coming after either of us saying, you told me to buy TWA stock, not the TWA flies anymore, and I did it and they closed down and now I've lost everything." No, I'm not telling you
Right.
that, but you have to look at, and this is somebody that I know pretty well, mentioned this. He said, one thing to look at is those industries that are likely to have a pretty significant rebound once things open up again. And right
Mm-hmm.
now they're closed,
Mhm.
they're going to have a rebound because people are going to want to do those things again.
Yes,
Whether
badly.
yeah, whether it's travel, going to movies, restaurants. There's publicly traded restaurants. There's,
Mhm.
publicly traded movie things, and
Mhm.
obviously, the travel industry. You can
Mhm.
pick your poison there, and but people are going to be like, finally, and they're going to want to. And they're going to hopefully have the stimulus money left over to be able to go do that.
Right.
So, touching back on what we were talking about earlier, I anticipate that the rebound of the economy is going to be unlike anything that we've ever seen before as far as the magnitude of it. For those that are financially able to do it, and
Mhm.
we all know this too, some people that aren't financially able to do it are still going to do it because they're going to use their credit cards to do it, and they're going to like, I'll deal with it later. And
Yes.
to each their own. But I think at the end of the day, we're all going to be. We want to go to that concert. We want to go to that sporting event. We want to go on that
Mhm.
vacation. We want to go wherever. And so anticipate lines and some difficulty to get access to certain things because everybody's going to want to do it. So
Yeah.
the first night that you can go to your favorite restaurant, it's probably somebody else's favorite restaurant. So be be prepared for the line. But if you go grocery shopping, you're already used to lines, so it's not going to be anything different. For me, I'll I'm going to wait a couple of weeks and just kind of let everybody get it out of their system and get back to routine. Then
Right.
I'll stroll over to my restaurant and say, "Miss me? How are you?" Hopefully they're still there, because I know that
Yeah.
there's many small businesses that are, and I've seen a statistic that potentially up to 30% of small businesses may not survive this,
Wow.
and
Yes.
that's alarming. And I actually had a conversation with a CEO of a startup last week, and he had to shut down his business, even though January and February were his best months ever.
Oh, it's
He ran
awful.
he ran out of VC money, and
Mm.
the venture capitalists right now are, they're holding on to their money, going, I'm not sure I want to invest in anything right now. So
Mm.
and again, the world has completely changed its economic existence in a period of weeks, and it's really strange to see that. So when you're
Yeah.
having conversations with your clients and on finances and things like that, what do you tell them to kind of calm their nerves as best as you can?
I talk about what I referred to earlier, the general recovery time for stock markets. There's not been one since 87. None of them have taken up to 3 years to to recover from, as far as getting back to where their portfolio value was. And so I remind them of history and that stock markets are forward looking. And so once the perception is there, and it's starting to see it, it's starting to feel it, right? Because we can see in the stock market in the last week or so that the markets have gone up pretty big, and it's because people are going, aha, the curve is flattening. The death rate is not nearly as high as it was anticipated it would be at this point, and new cases are not as plentiful as they thought they would be, and so people are starting already thinking, well, then that means we'll be back in business soon and stock prices will go up because profits will be there. So, and it's so unpredictable. And that's why people shouldn't make a move just based on what they're seeing right in front of them at the moment. Because we didn't really, I kind of had this feeling the coronavirus, if it became what it has, I had no idea it would be this big, but would be a threat to the markets because of a trade disruption more than the fact that they would shut down all of our economies. But so just stay the course. I mean, if you have an investment philosophy and it's a sound one, we build portfolios based on risk tolerance and circumstances. And this is when financial planning becomes important too. You're talking about people who are about to retire. It's strategies for what's the best way to, can you work a little bit longer? Can we take funds out of your bonds instead of stock for now and not sell into a down market? There's lots of strategy involved too. And can we do it from one account versus another because of what happens to your income versus your tax bracket? And so it is a pretty individualized business, despite the robo sort of thing that goes on, but really everyone's circumstances are unique. But the best thing I can do is just tell people to hold the course, which they don't really want to hear. They want action.
Of course, we want it yesterday, and that's our nature. And I think that's why many of us are struggling with this, because we want to do something and there's so many things that we can't do right now. And it's frustrating for all of us, but I agree with you. Hold the course. This is a long range thing, and I think that with portfolios and investments and whatnot, understanding how markets work and working with people like yourself to guide them on, okay, here's what you should do on this. Yes, you're losing money right now, but we anticipate that this particular organization is going to have quite the rebound because of all of these factors of what they're in, the funding they're getting from the government to help. And I anticipate that people that are able to invest now and expand some of their stock holdings and mutual funds and everything else at the end of the year are going to be quite pleased of the decisions that they made right now. I really think that, because even if there's another wave of this, I think that we've learned lessons along the way to mitigate it better, which again is kudos to everybody involved, governments and healthcare agencies and science and society, for doing the self-quarantining, because I think that's the reason why that we're not seeing the numbers as high, is we actually are doing our own job, which speaks volumes to the character of our societies, and realizing, okay, I have a part to play in this, and let's do this. And from an investment standpoint, we all have a part to play, and I'm with you. You ride it out, and if you have the financial ability to invest a little bit more, it's going to pay off. I honestly think it will. I don't think we're going to see anything, long term that's going to be detrimental. But again, talk with a trusted advisor and get the guidance based on your own financial situation, because I was explaining to one of my daughters earlier, and she was comparing her financial situation to her older sister. It's like, don't compare the two of you. I've known you your entire life. You are polar opposites of each other in every way aspect other than your gender and who your parents are. Other than that, no similarities. So don't compare your financial pictures. You don't work for the same companies. You don't have the same beliefs. You don't buy the same. You don't. You're related, but that's it. So, make your own financial choices based on what works for you. So even it starts at home.
Yes, I love it.
Awesome.
That's a great story.
Awesome. So Jennifer, where can people find out more about you and this awesome work that you're doing?
Oh, well, my website is summitfinancialpartnersrva.com. And, but more as simply as my email address is jennifer@summitrva.com.
Awesome. And I'll have that in the show notes. So Jennifer, great to talk with you again. Thanks. Always enjoy our time together, and continue being safe and well.
Thanks. You too. I appreciate it.